Brad and Jolene, it was June of 2004 when the Madison County Sheriff's Office entered the double-wide trailer of David, Lorraine, and Laura Kaneko. There, they discovered a gruesome sight, the decomposing bodies of mother Lorraine and daughter Laura. Experts believe that Laura had died 3 years earlier in 2001, Lorraine in February of 2003. But tonight, our story begins when Lorraine was just a child.
I started saving her seats on the bus. That's the first one they picked up, and she was about the last.
That's one of the earliest memories Judy Summers has of her best friend Lorraine Kaneko. Both born in Rexburg, they were in the same LDS ward, went to the same schools, and grew up together.
She was one of the brightest stars. She valedictorian and straight A's and 4.0.
Lorraine was very involved in school. She studied hard and was extremely smart, characteristics her daughter Laura would inherit years later.
She was incredibly smart and she was incredibly sweet.
Carrie Wilson attended Madison High School with Laura. The thing she remembers most about her friend?
She smiled. She did smile a lot.
Laura served on seminary council, was in the National Honor Society, did most things teenagers do, but Carrie knew some things were a little different.
She had dates, but her parents went with her on her dates. She went to the dances, but they were there with her. She was never really ever alone.
Like her mother, Laura graduated valedictorian from the high school. Meanwhile, Lorraine was busy with church activities, going on trips, and doing other things with her friend, Judy Summers.
I'd see her downtown or something, and she would go out of her way, clear across the parking lot, just to say hi. After they secluded themselves, it all changed.
It all changed. Lorraine and Laura gradually stopped going out, stopped calling people, and ended contact with those close to them.
I called her about 4 times and left messages, and I said, that you and I and Laura and Dave go to Fong's and have lunch. Finally, after about the 5th call, she sent me this little note that says that she was too busy to have lunch.
I would see her in town, like at the grocery store sometimes. It was always late at night, and she was usually at least with 1 or 2 of her parents. But her mom was always with her.
Coming up in 2 minutes, we talk with a psychiatrist who's read some of the journal entries Lorraine and Laura kept while they lived in seclusion. Hear what this specialist had to say about the women's mental illness. Lorraine and Laura Kaneko lived in seclusion for at least 5 years. During that time, the women kept several journals detailing what was happening in their home and what the women were thinking. Court documents give us an insight into what was contained in the journals of Lorraine and Laura Kaneko. Thousands of pages of detailed notes were taken. In those writings, there seemed to be a daily pattern of obsessive behavior. The women would start counting early in the morning, and that would last until 2 or 3 later that night. Lorraine would keep track daily of Dave's activity before he left for work, showing signs of paranoia. The writings indicate consistent and progressive signs of mental illness.
I specifically work mostly with medically complicated psychiatric patients.
Dr. Anne-Marie O'Melia has studied mental illness for years. She's read through parts of Lorraine and Laura's journals. She and other experts believe they likely suffered with paranoid schizophrenia.
The people who suffer from psychotic illnesses like schizophrenia have difficulty, well, they can't challenge whether it's a real belief or a false belief. They lose their reality testing.
The ladies' journals show that's what happened. Lorraine became concerned they were being attacked. As they were driving down the road, they would keep track of vehicles in front and behind them. They were very concerned they were being followed on a daily basis. All of these signs of a typical paranoid schizophrenic.
They develop an excessive concern about harm to themselves, and they worry about things that are not real, sort of conspiracy theories, those sort of things.
Schizophrenia wasn't the only mental illness these women battled. Experts say Laura's journal reveals she began showing signs of mental illness in her teen years. Lorraine, on the other hand, seemed just fine, but as the women became more and more secluded, O'Melia believes they developed a very rare psychotic illness called shared delusional disorder.
There's one person who sort of got mentally ill first, and then normally, we would never catch this from someone else. But in the context of no outside influences to sort of check the delusions, to pursue some sort of argument against them, you can actually fall more and more into it.
As the years went by, court documents show Lorraine and Laura's mental illness became physical as well, as they gradually stopped eating. Toward the end of their lives, their journal entries spoke consistently about food. O'Melia says that's common for anyone who is starving.
They describe 90% of the thoughts to be about food, or preparation of food, or or the way they look.
Omelia says when someone starves themselves, their body goes into a different sort of metabolism, where the person actually feels better when they're not receiving food or nutrients. That could have happened to Lorraine and Laura, but we may never know. What we do know and can learn from this case is how to recognize when someone close to us needs treatment for mental illness.
When we get to a point where their function is impaired, where they can't go to work, where they're starting to believe things that actually interfere with their ability to get the things they need in life, that's when we really start to have to look at treatment and intervention.
Now, Lorraine and Laura's family have said they don't want to comment about this case until after the trial is over. That is set to begin in July. Brad and Jolene, back to you.
I miss my family. I miss my wife and my daughter. I'm sorry for the situation that happened. The tragic ending.
David Kaneko comments to Judge Richard St. Clair before being sentenced today. Kaneko lived with the bodies of his wife Lorraine and daughter Laura for years after they had died. Last April, Kaneko was charged with involuntary manslaughter, abandonment of a vulnerable adult, and desertion of a spouse. But 2 months ago, he entered an Alford plea agreement, meaning he still says he's innocent, but believes a jury could find him guilty if a trial went to court. In that agreement, Kaneko pleads guilty to 2 counts of involuntary manslaughter, and today he appeared in a full courtroom to learn his fate.
I feel great remorse within my own heart about what happened, and the fact that I couldn't, because of my mental condition at the time, I couldn't really perform as I should have, or as I know now that I should have.
Before the sentencing, the mother of Lorraine and grandmother of Laura also spoke.
The death of Lorraine and Laura have been a very devastating, heartbreaking event in our life. The sentencing of David Kaneko will bring closure to the criminal case, but does not bring emotional closure to our family and friends, as we still do not know the answers to 2 questions. First, how did they die? Second, why did they die?
In the end, St. Clair sentenced Kaneko to 2 4 to 10-year concurrent prison sentences. He'll serve 180 days in the C Block mental facility of the Idaho State Prison. While there, Kaneko will be seen by a psychiatrist. The doctor will send the judge written reports on Kaneko's condition, and after 180 days, the judge will review Kaneko's situation. If he's doing fine, Kaneko will be placed on probation. In addition to prison time, Kaneko will also have to pay $40,000 in restitution to Madison County.